Right now in this place, I'm excited actually to hear our brother. I've known him for a couple of years. Thank the Father for our connection. I was blessed to be able to officiate him and his wife Abigail's wedding. Truly a blessing to be there.
Yes, yes.
I remember when I first met her at James 1:1. And now she's grown to be comfortable. Very discerning. And me and Lady Emma, we thank the Heavenly Father for giving us another sister. Lucas Cameron is definitely all of our brother. Very humble, wants the best for y'all's people, but he also wants to please y'all himself. And so I thank him, and I thank the Most High for his Torah, where he says no matter who it is, he moved past bloodline. And he said whoever's keeping Torah is Israel. I say this because we have new brothers and sisters that we just now met here tonight. This is not my Gentile brother. Dana is not our Gentile brother. Because that still goes the designation that he's not fully Israel. But according to Yah, we are to accept them as our brothers.
That's right.
Amen.
And whatever tribe he falls under, whatever blessing that tribe gets, he gets it as well. Hallelujah. So this time I'm going to get out of the way. He doesn't need an introduction. Y'all know him, whether it be online or in the present. I thank our brother Lucas for traveling. Anytime I call him, he answers the phone and he says, I'm there. Hallelujah. Come on, Luke. Now you're going to prepare us for what's coming. Some of the things that you've been saying for a while has started to come into fruition. So I thank the Most High for using them. Everybody ain't working in the field of the last days. And everybody shouldn't try to. It's reserved for a select. Just like evangelism is reserved for a select. Know your lane. And stop watching other people and trying to be what they are. Hallelujah. Come on, Lord.
Check. Maybe just a little, up just a little on the volume. So before I begin, I just want to say it's always an honor to be called upon to speak. I'm just a simple man. The way I look at it, when I used to be a deacon in what I call the House of Babylon, I thank the Most High God that He woke me up from the nations to serve Him, keep His commands.
Yes.
And ever since that I left, from what I call modern day churchianity is that, and started to walk in the way, one of the things that was deeply laid on my heart was to get ready for the 7 Trumpets of Revelation, because it's always been in my spirit, and it's always felt more real every passing day that we are the last generation. You know, we've always heard people talk about the end days, but I think we are at the end of the end days. And, you know, I think people can't make a clear discernment a lot of that. I've also seen where, you know, this is one thing, and I just want to commend your bishop, because a lot of churches, a lot of assemblies will not talk about the last days because they say, well, it's too hard to talk about. We can't understand this. It's not for us. And it's at the doors, you know. And that's what I intend to sell you that point tonight in your mind mentally, because if I passed away tomorrow, this would be the information I would want shared at my funeral. This is the last information I can ever give you. This is pretty much from 2009 forward. This is what I would consider my life's work in 1 hour if I presented it to you. And also, real quickly before I begin, there is a box of gear here that I brought for the church to disperse, and I'll leave that for the elders to do. Just please make sure the youth get it first, because, you know, maybe that'll encourage them to have them a little, you know, bug out bag or whatever. But then, of course, the families, everybody, please try to take something, because, you know, freely it was given, freely I pass that on to y'all, because all these companies ask me to review stuff and everything on the channel. So please use it, you know, because one day it might save somebody's life. Okay, so to begin with now, I'm going to try my best to press this through in 1 hour. Some of the things I'm going to share with you, I know it's very heavy hitting, but there's no way to softly put it out there. It is what it is. And I'm going to show you some things in review for the past year and a half, because if you look at a decade backwards, it has just been a kind of like this, and then all of a sudden, a year and a half ago, it's just been right. And it hasn't stopped. Things are happening at such an intensity that my son told me the other day, I said, man, it looks cloudy outside. And he said, oh, that's because the West Coast is on fire. Did y'all see in the land downtown? I mean, it's just, oh my goodness. I was like, man, it is just so cloudy. And that's why. Or hazy, I guess the right word. But I'm going to show you a lead up to that, 2 examples that the scripture plainly says that we're at the threshold. That way it's not me giving it to you, it's literally proof positive. And then I'm going to show you the 7 trumpets from a scriptural perspective, and then from a preparedness perspective. And I don't like going hungry. I like an evening snack. So I got y'all a number 10 can of freeze-dried strawberries I'm going to pass around, and you can take a cup and pour it out in it. We got that to pass around. I've got a ton of gear to pass around. If you have questions after this is over, I'm going to give you some information here. You can email me at the number 7 trumpetsprepper@gmail.com. Okay, just catch me before I go out the door. If you have questions about off-grid living, stuff like that, email me. I'll do whatever I can to help you. Just please understand that I'm always out in the wild blue yonder doing construction. So if I don't get back to you right away, I'm not ignoring you. I promise I'll get it back to you, okay? All right, so we'll begin here. We're going to be covering preparing for the last days, the beginning of sorrows, the mark of the beast, and the 7 trumpets, because these few items are leading right into the trumpets, okay? And like I said, the goal of this presentation is to just demonstrate to you that we are living in the last days and the final generation of this age before the return of Messiah. And, you know, as one come out of the nations, you know, you are Yah's chosen people, okay? And I come to that conclusion 2014-ish, and they made that documentary in 2015. The world wants to keep the Gentiles to see, but they really want to keep the Father's people to see, because y'all are the lighthouse of the nations. Yeah. I never try to miss that point to tell people, because he spoke to Abraham, not to Germany and to France and everybody else, okay? So I hope something I say, you know, will inspire you to do your own research on this and share this with many people as possible, because you might say something my family member will get them to turn to the kingdom, because they'll never listen to me. Okay? Prophets only without honor, what is it? Own houses, own country. They ain't gonna listen to me, I promise you that. All right. So first thing I want to share is this meme I seen the other day. It said, things are not getting worse, they are getting uncovered. We must hold each other tight and continue to pull back the veil. As I see things begin to happen anymore, I thank the Most High, because it's validation that His Word, when the first trumpet pops off, D-Day +1, everything from the revelation of John back is validated. There's no more questions. You're either in or you're out. And Bishop Brown said recently, he said some people are coming to the revelation of salvation while others to the revelation of damnation. Did y'all see that post on Facebook he made?
Yeah.
It's something to that effect. I don't want to misquote it, but you go back and check it out. I was like, that's spot on for right now. All right, so we got to put these lenses on because, the world's lost and all this stuff up here, but we see it for what it is. All right? Now, I got to looking into this recently because as you live in the last days and you start telling people, hey, the Scripture says this, they say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. But do you know that when you look at actually just in the KJV Bible, sorry, I'm trying to figure out this laser thing. I'll get it down in a minute. When you look in the KJV Bible, there's 51 occurrences that I actually looked at that wisdom is not just spiritual wisdom, but to know what's going on in the world. Because you got a couple. And that blew my mind. I know that's so simple, but I'm like, you've got to apply both things together. When I presented this at the conference that me and Brother Joel put together and was honored to have B.O.O.M to be a part of it, I told people, I said, this is called the toilet paper effect. I know we're well past 2020, but this still applies today. Remember the gas? It was gas. Then it was meat. It's just been one thing after another. But as soon as it's over, everybody goes back to normal. Lost in watching TV or whatever. It's just... and the thing is as the trumpets begin, I believe this will also be the same effect. Third of the stars fall out of the heavens and burn up third of the green grass. Can you imagine the fallout from that? But then in a week or two later, probably most people's going to have the spirit of stupor and go back to sleep. So I always warn people that, and like I said, I'm going to run through the slides real quick so we get to the heart of it. Most post-apocalyptic movies, I didn't know this, but they start around 2021. Or some time frame for a lot of this stuff from cinema, and the reason I point this out is because a lot of the wicked and those that serve Satan also own the media industry. So they're like throwing little laughters at us that they know what's coming.
That's right.
When the ministry conference was started last year, I remember there was the fires in Australia. There's all sorts of volcanic activity. This was in one day, okay? This has gotten way out there since then. Like if you just Google that, you should see how much this has changed. But I just wanted to show you in review real quick. All the things that, like I said, the wicked, the elite, all these things that's going on are being exposed. Things are being revealed. People's just got to open their eyes to see it. We've seen so many social injustices come to the point where it has to be looked at now. And it should be looked at. Because the freedom of speech, the quietening down, stopping everyone from being able to have a voice, there's been so much of that go on and it's getting worse. On top of that, there was all sorts of, what they would call terrorist activity. Am I missing something here? There we go. There was all sorts of that, and it's just gotten worse. And then, of course, I don't even need to mention that. And as YouTube has got bots and everything watching anymore, I'm going to say the jab for this, so that we're all on the same page. Because I don't want to get this pulled. And, of course, that alone together and all that. And I'll touch back on that later, actually, one more time before I get serious about it. But this is the meat, okay? Has anybody ever read the book of 2nd Esdras?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that is like absolute necessary reading material right now in the book of Baruch. Like this is just absolutely, I wish so badly when I was in the church house, these were the things that were spoke of. I would have been out of there quicker. The beginning of sorrows, okay? 2nd Esdras chapter 16. Elder Joe taught me this years ago. I take no credit for this information. Elder Joe passed away last year. I look forward to seeing him in the kingdom and the resurrection, y'all willing. But this is the most important thing that man ever taught, okay? He showed me this. It says, woe be unto thee, Babylon Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria, which is also Damascus, for those looking at historical. And depending on the translation, that's how it will come out as Damascus. Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair, bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. Further down in the same chapter, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, and what shall I do when these evils shall come? Okay, now that's important because I think this is probably going to correlate with the time of Jacob's trouble too. But this is like actually we know a hash-off point because this is going to go with Isaiah 17 in just a minute. It says here, and lastly, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Now, that tells you there's going to be some hard times. Because let me tell you, I've been in the blast forge. It gets hot. All right, so it's going to get rough for a while. But hear, O ye my beloved, saith Yahuwah, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Elohim is your God, and the God of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith Yahuwah Elohim, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. You know, I think often on those last two things anymore. I think a lot of us get guilted down in our sins. We're all working toward the kingdom. Everybody's at a different point in their walk. We're all working toward trying to get our hearts and minds as clear and focused on keeping the commands of the Most High. We just never need to let ourselves get deep down. And I was thinking about today at the Georgia Aquarium. Y'all got the best aquarium. All right. As I was sitting there today watching the fish and everything going, I'm like, man, what an awesome creator. Like, I don't know how people don't believe in the Most High. Because I'm like, I can't design that. I mean, you think every stretch of DNA, every little design, oh, just incredible. But Isaiah 17, like we've all read this probably. The burden against Damascus, behold, Damascus will cease from being a city and will be a ruinous heap. So we know that when Damascus is wiped clean, the party's about to get started. And that's just one sign, right? Now I got another one for you. But right here's Damascus today. Now I don't know about y'all, but that don't look like a ruinous heap. I mean, they got everything. They got skyscraper, shopping center. It looks like it got some trying to go on like New York Central Park here. I mean, like they got a good spread. That ain't gone yet. So when that's gone, we know that everything is at the door because, you know, then you've got that great earthquake before the trumpets, and then the trumpets start. Now, this is something that I tell everyone. Now, I want you to take this with a grain of salt, okay? You can say, Luke, I totally dismiss what you're about to say, and that's okay. I take no offense to it. I just want you to put it in the back of your mind so that if you see these things come to pass, but man, I knew that was coming. You know, and I'm not saying like I told you so. Forget I'm even existing. I'm just saying put it in the back of your mind so that if it does shake out that way, then you were prepared. When I volunteered for the military, and thankfully the MAPS denied me because I had asthma as a child, so I didn't get to go get into that mess in the sandbox. And because now looking at the military, I couldn't deal with it, especially because of the jab and everything else. But when I watched those towers go down, if you ever notice like the legislation in our country, you need something important done. Politicians are worthless. I don't care if you vote Republican, Democrat, Independent, and if there is any other classes that I haven't thought of. You know, like, it don't matter how you vote, they get nothing done. But in days, I think it was 30-something days, I believe it was, they passed the Patriot Act. Now they can come in your door and take you whenever they want, you know, all these things. To have a beast system in place, Ron Dalton gave me, I think, one of the last keys that was really in my trying to put in my mind, is that we can't keep up with everybody at all times, right? We can't monitor each other all the time. We got to trust that we're going to do the right thing. But AI, Ron Dalton said that by 2025, AI should be fully autonomous. That means everybody in this room's cell phone, they know that we're all sitting right here having this conversation. You cannot have full control and force things upon people until you know where everybody's at every moment of every day. Now that's Satan's kingdom, right? Because the Most High Yah is all-knowing, omnipotent, omnipotent. You know, he knows all things. But Satan can't run like that, so he's got to do the next best thing. So we had this happen. Now, the thing is the Georgia Guidestones, I'll touch on that in just a second, it's just right up the street from y'all, is out of these troubled times a new world can emerge. Look when this was, right? This was way back when.
That's right.
Now, there's things set in motion, and, you know, this is the second thing that I see, is that this is never ending. Like it's, I think they said by October be the fourth wave, you know. And with doing so, though, when you have an enemy you can't see, when my grandfather went and fought in World War II, he knew who was a Nazi and who was a U.S. soldier. Okay, now we don't even know who's who anymore on battlefield. Then, this comes along, I can't see it, it might kill me. You know, like Psalms 91, ain't that the, you know, everybody needs to be reading Psalms 91. Need not worry about these things, okay, because the Most High is our shield. But through fear comes control. That's how the Nazis done it. You just look at Mayo, Stalin, Hitler, all these people. Okay. When you move forward with that, you start looking at a theme like the scripture talks about: no mass, no entry. Imagine no mark, no entry. Right? Y'all tracking where this is going? All right. Now, this is just up the road from you guys. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little tired from all my traveling lately. I'm going to come back down and film this as another thing. But right here is important. The first commandment of the New World Order is maintain humanity under 500 million people in perpetual balance with nature. And, interesting one down here is when the French, many hundred years ago, whenever they had their whole revolution thing, they also tried to do away with faith. This is something straight out of that too, is rule, passion, faith, and tradition, and all things with tempered reason. No, I don't need that. I need what the Torah says. If it was good enough for Messiah, it's good enough for me. I don't need this. But they've laid out how that this is going to trend. Now, the last thing I would say to this is the government has been releasing things about UFOs and all this crazy stuff. So now you have people that you don't know who's your enemy anymore. A plague that you cannot see. And it might be COVID-27 by the time we get a couple years down the road, And then you have things that, of course, we know the fallen angels is what they call these. Okay, everybody wants to talk about it and say that there's such thing as aliens, but there's not aliens. They're fallen angels, right there. And the thing is if you see this stuff in the very near future, we've got to know what we're dealing with, because of Trumpet 5, you're going to see some crazy stuff. It says people will seek death and cannot find it. That's like The Walking Dead. I mean, I know people see this stuff on TV and they're like, this is just science fiction, but most high y'all's going to do stuff that is going to absolutely just turn tables, And so people that's not took the time to look at the scripture, look at the book of Enoch and see, and not only that, the book of Genesis alone. This right here, a biblical research group, CE4, done a research study, and they found out that when people have a so-called abduction, the minute they cry out to Messiah, stops immediately. That tells you it's demonic. So this right here, at this point in time, if you see something like that take place and they say, well, you have to have a mark so that we know you're who you are. And they can already do that with what's here right now. But what I'm telling you is, you have to have fear, you have to always have a hidden enemy in order to get people to give up everything. So I just throw that one in as an honorable mention. But that goes all the way back to Reagan and Gorbachev, who said they'd call off the Cold War if they actually had, aliens to deal with or stuff like that, something from outer space. Furthermore, the current man of sin, right here, Pope Francis said he would baptize aliens. Who are we to close the doors? Well, I don't know that we should be baptizing demons. And furthermore, the same man of sin current says that suggests people have the moral obligation to take the cocktail. Now, I would decline to that. And they're mocking us, the Space Force thing, and all you got to do is put the lens on it. But I want to mention this, the last thing, and then I'm going to get straight into the last points before we just go straight into the trumpets and prayer. The Foot Locker Week of Greatness commercial was one of the weirdest things I ever seen. It showed Hebrew Israelites going up, and you ever heard that song, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Coming Forward, Take Me Home? Now I'm going to tell you what, whoever put this together had the trumpets in it, had the Hebrew Israelites in it, and it wasn't other nations. It was exclusively people of the Hebrew Israelites. All right, so I'm just saying this was a very interesting thing because it showed, it showed, highly technological things, and it was a very interesting commercial. It's still on YouTube, but I'm telling you, people that are in the know are starting to put this information out. But somebody asked me about, to please make sure to speak about flat earth tonight. I just want to say that, the world under a fixed firmament dome, I've never seen a rat fly to space, but in SpaceX, man, Elon Musk is really stepping it up. He took that rat to space on that rocket. Y'all got to watch that video. It's some funny stuff. You just can't CGI out of that. But I say all that too, because for false messiahs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders, deceive if possible even the elect, which if anybody is confused, that's you folks in the room. Because I'm telling you what, it's gonna come down to the nations just being completely deceived. So what I want to point out about this, the last thing, before going into the trumpets, is the world we're living in, there's a conditioning process going on right now. Now, many people may have a mixed feeling about this past year and a half, how things have went down. You might be in fear for your health. I am not here to cancel out someone's free will. You're going to do what you choose to do. I'm going to choose what I'm going to do. But what I do want to do is warn you, because I feel admonished to do that. For years, when I got a hold of one of these from a friend in the military, this used to be the thing. You know, everybody was concerned about the mark in the hand. If you look at Paleo Hebrew, the way that Paleo goes is that the hand looks like this, you know, and then there's the arm reaching out. So it's one full piece, the arm with the hand. Now, that got me curious, because, you know, it says, and he calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy nor sell save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. If you look at this, and this goes, you'll see where my second point is leading to, where I've said all this. If you look up the word mark, it's G5480 in Greek, okay? It says, now keep that other number in mind here, because I'm going to show you this well, but charagma, a scratch or etching, that is a stamp or a badge of servitude, right? But it says it's the same as that word right there. So when you combine that to a point, a stake, a palisade, so a sharp pointed object to go into you, right? This is the most precious thing you have under salvation. It is everything that makes every one of you people in this room unique, and me who I am and you who you are. Now, if we look at that in depth, drug sorcery is deceiving the nations right now. Okay, now this is actually leading into this second point, is that if you look at it, the administer of drugs, sorcery, magical arts, and this was also, I didn't know this, but like ancient times they used that for idolatrous worship. Alright, so our body's a temple. With doing that, that sounds like you're putting an idol in your body, right? Setting up something in a place of worship that should not be, right? Alright, and right here, it has to be sorcery that deceives, that the nations are deceived by. So we're seeing this going on right now. Right here is healthy blood. It looks like Cheerios, you know, and this is a healthy nucleus. This right here is a mess. Now this is, for anybody curious, this was from Moderna. This was the one that the Moderna vax. Now if you look further, the doctor, now this doctor's been at this, I think he was a pathologist. Is that the correct statement? Anybody here in the medical field, I apologize. I don't know all the medical terms. I'm a contractor, okay? I'm a builder. But this guy's been at it for like 40 years, longer than I've been drawing breath on this earth. And this right here is under fluorescent light. This is not supposed to be in your body. But you see these things right here? They're saying that that's what messenger DNA is like. You know, because right there at long rod, after you apply light to that, this is lit up in people's blood. This is not supposed to be. But you know what? The scripture says, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I've given it to you on the altar to make atonement for your souls, for it is the blood by reason of the life that makes atonement. Everything that's about us that makes us who we are, that's in us, okay? As of the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be, right? What was the one ingredient that was for sure present in the days of Noah? Mixed DNA, hybridized human beings. We only have that now. Today. I always tell people, they say something, I'm like, today. You know, I always say, I love y'all today, because if I ain't keeping his commandments tomorrow, I obviously don't love him. You know, Messiah said, if you love me, keep my commands. Well, the thing that was weird to me is if you look in Genesis 6 and 9, it reiterates these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, so he kept the Torah, and perfect, not damaged DNA in his generations, and Noah walked without it. So now that is my second case and point I will make to you, that up until now, we do not have the days of Noah capable until today. All right, so when we see Damascus laid waste, we already see this one in front of us. The trumpets are at the doorstep. All right, and Revelation 7:3 says, "Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Elohim their foreheads." I really believe we're in the sealing time. Because when you talk to people, I don't care, they're Hebrew, Gentile, they've come to the truth. You can talk to people that's starting to make the transition. They get it immediately. Light bulbs go off. I'll talk to some people and they're like, I took the jab. What's going on in the world? I mean, they're just clueless. There is this divide. There is this sifting of the sheep right now. Sheep from the goats. Now, Scripture says, and Yahuwah said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that are done in the midst thereof. And anybody that wants to read further in that, a slaughtering messenger went through and started slaying everybody else that did. Okay? But it was a sealing in the head, right? This is important because, as I pointed out, people, can lose their salvation with the mark of the beast in the hand or in the forehead, but only those that's sealed, it's in the head. It is our willingness to comply to the Torah. All right? Keep the commands. So, an honorable mention here is I just recently produced a little mini docu on the Man of Sin, 10 Proofs It's the Pope, if you want to check that out at a later point, because it's just not part of tonight's presentation. But now, let me see if I can stay on time. Did good, got 4 minutes to spare. Preparing for the 7 Trumpets of Revelation. There's going to be a time coming that you could have that. And listen, I've worked for a lot of different people, okay? Bunkers in the backyard. Years of food. And they don't serve y'all. You know how good that's going to work out for them? Not a hill of beans. All right, so you may not, I want to put people at peace tonight, is that you may not have any preparation physical at all. The fact that you love y'all and want to serve him is more important than everything else, okay? But Noah didn't have like a life preserver. He just pulled like, all right, I got it for the next duration until this all dries up. He built a boat. That's right. So we've got to do the same. Joseph built granaries. He went through a hard time, and it ended up with the salvation of the whole house of Israel. So, as those situations excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm talking so fast now. As those situations pan down, is going to be in our day as well. And, gold going through the furnace of affliction, it's going to be a hard time. So we got to prepare as well. So what I've done with this is I put this up, and I'm going to go back to this multiple times, is the 7 Trumpets of Revelation. As you look at it, the green grass and a third of the trees are burned up. So immediately following a great earthquake, and I imagine best you look at it in Scripture, I would imagine it's worldwide. It's going to be one that stops everybody in their tracks. Is when you see a third of the stars fall out of the heaven and a third of the green grass burned up, this smog, haze in Atlanta today, it's probably going to be like 50, 60 times worse. It's probably going to need a gas mask to walk out the house, And I remember when Mount St. Helens blew, my dad had to wipe the ash off the vehicles at BASF in Morristown, and that was all the way in East Tennessee. So, imagine all this just successively taking place, right? So, the 3 points that we'll cover with this is what can we do to prepare, what are the types of preparation, and how do these apply to final events. Now, like I said, many people are spiritually prepared. I know some people, like I said, that's got everything but the armored tank. But they don't know y'all, so best to you, my friend. So you've got to have it coupled together. Now, this right here, aside from communication and personal protection, and I didn't put that on there for obviously because of Google and YouTube, but those are things you definitely need as well, communication and personal protection. But this is the core essentials. When we go out and work for people, I've been doing this now for almost a decade, this is the most important things. If you have the financial capability, let me tell you, you can build a lot of things in a week's time frame. We went out to a place where there was nothing, and they had water, power, and shelter, and everything when we left. And with a group of people working together, you can do amazing things. At the tiny house factory, we crank one of these things out all the time. When I go help my buddy Randy at his tiny house factory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start passing some things around too, so you can actually get a feel for it. And like I said, don't forget to grab some of this gear here, disperse that as well. But how do these apply to final events? Well, we're going to look at it literally right in front of us. Woe to you who are longing for the day of Yahuwah. What does the day of Yahuwah mean to you? It is darkness and not light. As when a man flees from a lion and a bear shall meet him, or entered his house, rested his hands on the wall, and a serpent shall bite him. Is not the day of Yahuwah darkness and not light? Is it not very dark with no brightness in it? It's going to be a hard time for you. And those that are not sealed are going to reap what they sow. And it's going to be a strengthening time for the people that trusted the word, that people scorned you and mocked you and said, this ain't never happening. You're going to walk out the door and it's like the night of the living dead. And you're just like, well, I'm going to the store today. That's going to be able to harden you up and make you that strong because you see the word taking place before you. So, a third of the stars fall out of the heavens and burn up, the green grass. Well, you're going to obviously need food stores put back. You're going to need seeds. Something I encourage people to have is permaculture, because, blueberry bushes, raspberry bushes, things like that, even if it's damaged, it'll come back. These things, permaculture is an important thing. So, when we look at the second trumpet, and like I said, I'm going to go literally into the preps in a minute. We're just looking at these as they go through. A third of the sea becomes blood, and a third of the ships in the sea life is destroyed. Now, do y'all remember when the, what's that canal down there? Panama Canal? Yeah, did you see how that one ship got plugged up and it looked like, the Normandy D-Day invasion was about to start all over again. There were so many ships it looked like overhead. Well, did you see how much dysfunction and chaos that caused? Can you imagine when this huge tidal wave just wipes out navies and sea Mars containers and fishing boats, and just all this stuff's gone? I mean, it's going to disrupt the food industry, which might stop some people from eating some abomination for a bit, which would be a good thing. But I mean, there's going to be a serious disruption right there, and plus water's going to be decimated. For people that don't know how to desalinate water, a lot of us, I think it was a Navy map they shown that if something like this ever happened, that 500 miles in, our waters could be contaminated. 500 miles in. That means salinated water. There's a company, and I'll show you in a minute, that it's a simple thing. It almost looks like a moonshine still. You just set it on a pot, set a cold pot on top of it, and then boil it, and that water will go out and distill. But now the thing about it is, you don't want to constantly drink distilled water, because our body needs minerals, supplements, things like that. You'll eventually drain all that and wash that out of your body. But that's just something to help get you through, The other thing is then a third of the waters turn bitter. But before that, you have to ask yourself, okay, from a viewpoint that say that we are under a fixed firmament dome on a flat geostationary earth with waters above and waters below. Scripture talks about a messenger taking a censer of fire and throwing that down. So this could be that. It could also be, did I click too fast through that? I think I clicked. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, it's clicker. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it. Here's an example of a mass tidal wave coming in, just wiping off that whole city. I mean, we don't want to be near the ocean whenever the trumpets start. I love St. Augustine more than probably anybody in this world, but I ain't going to live there. All right, I go and I leave. But the ocean is nice, but this is too much of a risk for when it starts, because, for a third of the ships to be destroying the world, you got to think, okay, boom, in the Atlantic Ocean. Think about that. That's Europe, East Coast America, southern South America, tip of North Africa. I mean, that could affect a lot of things. You look at the Pacific, look what Fukushima done to the ocean in a short amount of time. I mean, lots of options there of things that could happen. The ocean somewhere definitely not to be near. Now, another thing that was presented, and you can look this research up, like I said, don't take my word for nothing on this. They've shown that, I think it was the Canary Islands, that if there was a fall off right there, I think a volcanic activity, that it could actually send a surge tsunami across to the East Coast U.S. And I got to be honest with you, America is one of the most wicked places I've seen. I've traveled a lot of places. And, they mistreated the seed of Israel. I mean, this place is going to be under judgment. So, I mean, I would be disappointed if some of the trumpets didn't hit here. If I was Most High, I'd wipe this place off. But I'm not. But this right here is a very, very possible thing. Like, this is within the human realm, without any interaction outside. This could actually happen. Okay? And many tsunamis and stuff like this happen all the time because of oceanic volcanic activity. But the big thing is just don't be near that near the ocean at all. Have a place inland in interior. So next up after that, once the ocean's waters, a third of that's damaged, then we have a third of the waters turn bitter. Now, if you look at this, I think it was shown in a study also that the Great Lakes, did y'all know, holds a third of the fresh water of the world? That's crazy. I mean, third of it's right there. If something happened right there, boom, there you go. There's a third. I mean, I'm just saying, I cannot stand up here and tell you every last thing that's going to happen. but you can kind of get a mental aspect. Okay, I can look for this, I can look for this. But just imagine a star falls from the heavens above, and the Most High disposed of the Great Lakes. There's a third. I mean, this stuff's easy to happen, is what I'm saying. Like, this is very realistic and can happen. Having a whale and things like that is super critical, and we're gonna break all this down in a minute. Just bear with me as we work through this. After that, and I think this, if nothing gets people's attention, I'm very curious, if I live by the grace of the Most High, to see these events take place. I'm very curious to see what will happen when a third of the sun, moon, and stars is darkened out. Man, can y'all imagine whenever they put Messiah on a stake and the sky went dark and everything went down? I mean, like, I can only imagine like a replay of that on a greater level this time around whenever all that's darkened. You know, it's like you go back there and turn the light switch off in the middle of church. It's gonna get wild. So, you know, at this point, you need multiple ways to produce power and things like that, because, you know, the regular stuff that we do for people like photovoltaic and wind power, you know, the sun kind of drives the wind, so you ain't gonna get wind power, you're not gonna get photovoltaic power, and I got some solutions for that too. But after that, actually, I want to show that real quick, and you know, you can imagine this is very, very easy to accomplish too. You know, I mean, the sun and the moon stood still, so a battle could take place. If Most High can stop the clock hands, He can easily just do this at any time again, okay? Now, when we look at that, the thing is, though, at this point in conjuncture, anything that goes on past this is out of our hands. I don't care how much preparation you have, this is out of our hands. And it is exclusively dealt out for the wicked, too. These are woes, you know. And so, when we see, my heart leans to demonic entities running loose. When people's being tormented and they're seeking death and for 5 months they can't find it, I think for people that live to see that, that is going to be some of the 5 craziest months you've ever seen in your life. And I don't mean to be graphic. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. And you know, the river Euphrates, they pointed out, being dried up. You know, China has been really rubbing shoulders with everybody lately. They have rubbed shoulders, I think, with France, with America. I didn't know about the Russia one. India. I mean, like, it almost, I'm waiting for the day they try to do the Risk board game thing for anybody that's played Risk. You build up an army and then you just work your way through it. And that's you know, we're seeing the Euphrates start to dry up, and that's laying a foundation for that too. And then following that, you know, the kingdom of heaven is going to be at hand. That to get through that is going to be some very tumultuous times. Like, we've seen what the world did over just the COVID moments in the past year and a half. Imagine just one of these taking place. Now, it is my hope that during that time there is a great conversion of people in the world. When you see this and they say, you know what, I was warned about this, I believe. You know, I don't want to be stiff-necked about it, I believe. I want to be like that centurion. I ain't no other Elohim in the world but the Most High Yah. I'm sold, all right? I mean, if I have to go to a firing squad right now, it's fine. You'll team me, whatever you got to do, I'm sold out, all right? But I don't need to go through all this to get to that conclusion. But a lot of people that believe in a pre-tribulation rapture doctrine, I just want to point out that when D-Day +1 happens, they're going to come to you and they're going to be like, man, I need a can of beans. You know what, Luke, you were right and I was wrong. But the problem is, I don't need the validation. I can't help you now, you know? I seen this meme, and it had a kid sitting in the driver's seat of a car, and then he was slowly rolling the window up, and you seen like half his face, and then his eyes, and then the window went up, and it was dark tinted, right? And it said, when Noah was in the boat and the door shut. That is going to be the reality, okay? All right, so moving into that. Now, like I said, I made a career after I left industrial maintenance. I made a career of trying to help people prepare. Now, I've worked for a lot of people that love the Most High, and I've worked for people that don't have no morality about them at all. But one thing about it is that I've learned a lot of things from working for those people, techniques and stuff like that over the years that hopefully I can pass along to you. I'm going to walk over here, and actually, I'll start passing stuff in just a second. This right here is an interesting designed filter. Now, I have a smaller one for like your bug out bag, but you can actually put this kit in your bag. I used this when I worked in Alaska off-grid. This was our one go-to source for water. Okay, so if I drink water out there, that was it. They can filter 100,000 gallons, I think is the warranty on that. Now you can take clean water and reverse flush that out. This thing is like $50. 100,000 gallons. You don't know how much you pay on your utilities on it. You can get some rainwater later and get your clean water out of it. But right there, that's made by Sawyer. Now this live straw, you can get these at like Bass Pro Shops or Amazon for like $15. And I've used these before. Same principle as this, but less filtration. Now I want to pass this around because, our world leaders, many of them, their heart ain't in the right place, and if they ever did push the nuclear football, and especially here in the near future, this is for that. It is specifically designed for nuclear, radiological, biological, just some crazy stuff, okay? It'll filter it out. And it's got these membranes in it. Let me find that here in this stack, and I will start passing this around. I'll just pass them to you and pass them down. And this is also another water filter, like I was pointing out, the Frontier straw. Similar to Sawyer, but not on the same caliber. Another thing that I want to point out is now this, anybody that owns a home, okay, and you got a bathtub, if for some reason, say like Atlanta's utilities cut out, for example, there's always a little bit of water pressure left for a while, right? You could drain your water heater, or you could run the water pressure from what you've got into this, and it has a pump. This gives you 65 gallons of water that you could live off of. That thing can throw in the closet and forget about it, right? But that's a handy thing to have. And now this right here, I've had one of these over the years. The Berkey water system is really unique. It has carbon filters at the top, and then at the bottom, it has filters that will get the fluoride and the crazy stuff they spray in the sky, which, barium and aluminum, if you take the elemental chart, I think they're mocking this, because if you put Ba with Al, what's that spell? Yeah, false deity, right? I think they're doing this stuff to mock us, but with that said, that can help filter that stuff out too. So if you have a rain catchment system, that can help you get that out of it. Now this right here, for people that do live near the ocean, this survival steel, you set this piece right here with the tube on top of this, and you see how it's a domed surface. When you boil water in the hot pot below, it will go up, it will dissipate and cool against that surface there and drain down the edge and out that tube. And that will desalinate it and also get contamination out of it. Now, Emma had this bottle of water out here earlier that is very special because it has high pH. Let me tell you, I love to eat. All right, I'm getting thick in my later years. And I'm getting gray too in my beard. I didn't like that. I've been trying to pluck it out, and it just 10 comes back when you take 2 out. So I'm just giving up. But that right there, that high pH water, the food that we eat, it's just toxic. It's garbage. Especially if you go on a food place, you got to eat around the edges because all that box stuff's just toxic. But that high pH, sickness cannot live in a high alkaline environment. So if you're just going to store water, that Essentia water, they ain't paying me for this promotion, okay? That right there is some stuff to put back. And there's other companies that have it like way up there on the pH scale. But that's some serious good stuff to have put back if you're just going to store it long term. My biggest recommendation to anyone is have a well drilled. They're figuring this stuff out, how to keep people in the system. If you can get a well drilled, all right, without paperwork, y'all follow what I'm saying? Get it done now. All right, before you have to have the stamp code and county sign off and all that stuff, because a lot of these guys out here will try to get you a well drilled real easy nowadays, and that way it's coming from the earth and not contaminated. And let me make sure I ain't got no more water preps. Yeah. All right, but this is the ones I highly recommend. And when you look at that nuclear one, like I said, that will do radiological, biological, and chemical. It's expensive, but it's worth it to have. I think it does 25 or 35 gallons. I think it's marked on the unit. Okay, now next up, I'm sorry if y'all hungry. I'm going to get everybody fed here.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
And here's some cups. Messiah always met people's physical needs and their spiritual needs, so we're going to try to meet your physical needs here too with some dinner. This is freeze-dried strawberries, okay? Some of this stuff you don't have to rehydrate. You can just open the can, eat it, real easy stuff to store. the thing with this is the reason I swapped to putting long-term number 10 cans up is because the 20 and 25 year shelf life, that's a long time. That means I'm 35 or 36 today. I'm losing track of how old I am. 36 today, that would be 60, 61. I'd be like 61 years old whenever that can's ready to come off the shelf. These right here, these meals ready to eat, anybody that served in the military, y'all, I don't even need to break that down. Yep. What is that penne, pista, pasta, or whatever, the swirly screwdriver, drill bit looking ones? Oh, that was the good stuff come along later. This stuff right here will keep, if you keep it cold, the colder you keep it, depending on the manufacturer, you can get multiple years. I mean, you can get like half a decade out of that. But now the problem with canned food at the store is just the same thing as like long-term canning on the farm is botulism. You got to be careful of that for storing it too awful long. After a couple of years, this stuff needs circulated. And what I always done with mine was I would take it down to the food pantry in town and give it to the homeless people who needed it before it ran out, and then just cycle new on the shelf. This, some of the things like Spam, salmon like that, you can get multiple more years out of it, but like I said, I wouldn't risk it. When it comes to freeze-dried, and vacuum packing things, they sell freeze-drying units. What I encourage is like, as a church, you might just all want to get a freeze-drying unit and have like a freeze-drying session, where it's like bring all your produce in, put it in our freeze-dry, and that way instead of paying like $3,000 for a unit, everybody's throwing $100 at it. And then the church has it too, so it's helping everybody. I'm just throwing that out there for what it's worth. I've worked for people that had those units. They're really neat. They can cycle out a lot of product if you've got the multi-tray slots. Now this right here, I'm going to hold this up. If you want to check this out afterwards, feel free to do so. But like this is about the size of the buckets that like I prep nowadays. And the same thing, this has got like a 25-year shelf life. And they don't take up a lot of space, but the thing is, like if you put that down in the cellar, prepping is not something you just go throw a ton of money at. It is a slow, steady process. Because like, look, I've had a lot of stuff and lost it and had to start all over again. Okay, so patience is key. But they sell this stuff currently right now, where the jab is taking place. A lot of people has been like, man, I need to get this stuff, and a lot of places don't have a lot of it. So I had to get in line a while back and wait a long time before I could even get some stuff. And it wasn't like I was panic buying. I'm just buying to do my thing. And then it ended up, after a course of time, finally getting it. So I encourage you, if you're going to buy a lot of long-term stuff like BePrepared.com, Ready Hour, get it early, because like things like this is at the end of the week, you got extra, a little bit of money from your paycheck. That's a 72-hour kit right there. You can throw that in your backpack. And that's up to 25-year shelf life too. So I mean, you can throw that in your backpack, keep it with you in the car. Derek's gonna put that in his backpack. Now, I had this book and I gave it to the pastor at Bethel Church in New York. My brother Ron asked me to come up there and speak. They still have this available if they don't have it in print run right now, because people's been buying this stuff like crazy. You can get it in PDF. So once again, if like the church wanted to get this book and share it with each other, it's only like $30 investment, I think. Well worth the money spent. And it's in its third print. But now Joel Skousen does the same kind of stuff that I do for people, but on a grander scale. Like he worked for the government. Bunkers, fortified structures, heavy duty, off grid. I mean, like this guy is like way, way up the tier from where I'm at, like doing my kind of work for people. And if you want to get this book, like I said, I think it's about $30. I highly encourage it. It shows all military strategic strike locations that, like, if a foreign country wanted to attack us. It shows volcanic activities. It shows city centers. It just shows so much information that if you're looking to buy a plot of land, you're like, well, if I look right here, I'm out of this danger zone. I'm away from population center. I mean, it's just, there's so much information I can't even begin to describe it, but well worthwhile to buy that book, and a good investment. All right, now this is getting into my lane here. I can't tell you how many tiny houses I built for people. I've never seen another tiny house the rest of my life. It wouldn't break my heart, okay? But that keeps the paycheck coming. But that house that you see to the left, I believe, is from a Vermont company called Jamaican Cottage Shop, okay? Now, they build these kits where that if you're not a carpenter, all right, you don't know how to read tape measure and all that stuff, and I mean, like, you're just starting out, no skill set at all on this, okay? This is just buy and ship. It shows up to your doorstep, you stand it up, you put it together, and you've got something, okay? Now, this thing right here is called a yurt. I've worked for customers that we've done off-grid work for and stuff. A yurt. A yurt, yeah. And there's a company in North Carolina that manufactures these and sells them. Just email me, I'll get you information because I can't remember that off the top of my head. But my personal, professional opinion is this is only a 3-season structure, all right? Because they build them on these platforms. If you insulated the platform and had a wood stove in this, I'd probably go for the sale that it's a 4-season. But the thing is, the reason I present you all these is these are options you can get immediately. If your house burnt down, blowed away, whatever tomorrow when the trumpets start, here's a backup, okay? You know, it at least gives you 4 walls and somewhere to lay down. And this is nicer than my great-grandmother and grandfather had right there probably, you know? So I'll come to the tiny house in a minute. Right down here's earthen structures like little hobbit houses and stuff. People's built these for just a matter of thousands of dollars. You can actually get manufactured foam sip, which is like a metal sheeting, and then foam sprayed in between, and then another metal sheet. You can get those, stand those up, and then back earth to it. There's a lot of different building techniques. They're a very cost-effective thing if you have a piece of land and you're just wanting to do this a little alone. That's something you can easily do. You go on eBay, people's older RVs, everybody's got to have the latest and greatest. You know, last time I checked, when we all go to the grave one day, there's no baggage room. You're going in there, it's bones going in, and then hopefully at the first resurrection, they're coming back out. If you come out number 2, you're in a bad spot. But there's no room for all this stuff. So, you know, when everybody goes and buys, what year are we in on the pagan calendar? 2021. Okay, 2021 on the Roman calendar here. Everybody's going to get the 2022. So then the rich folks gonna sell the 2021 for half off. So then you just go grab a 2021, it ain't gonna slap in 5 times. And now you've got a backup house. But these things are selling like crazy on the internet. You know, you can scoop that up on eBay. Now this stuff here, I don't know what the deal is with these Alaskan tents, because I'm gonna tell you, I worked in Alaska, I've been in one of those, it is garbage. All right, but if you want to do this route, okay, Cabela's and Bass Pro sells these. You can put the wood stove in it and everything, but not an honorable mention. All right, this is like the bottom of the barrel. Now, yeah, you ask people in the military, they can tell you what works and don't. Okay, they've been through it. Uncle Sam ain't been kind. Now, tiny houses, okay. I have built my own tiny house. It was off-grid. I've lived in it, okay? A lot of people, it's not for them, all right? But for some people, it works, okay? If you have a family of like 20 people, you know, that's not going to fly. All right, I don't know, however, we did start a frame the other day for a 10-foot wide by 36-foot long. That's like a park model home. So, I mean, they might fit 10 people in that. But this is usually between 16 foot to like 20, 30 feet long. You can build a tiny house. I think I built mine for like $7,000. I built it from recycled windows, garbage lumber, pallet boards, you know, all the stuff thrown in. And I built it, I put stucco on it, and it wasn't the Ritz-Carlton, but man, I mean, it worked. And I'll tell you what, guys, y'all have like a church build day. Man, I'll drive down here, we build a house in like a weekend. I'm kid you not. I mean, you got the frame down, 2x6s, you run the PEX pipe, the plumbing. I can show you how to build one of these in a weekend if you got a work crew. You bring me 10 able-bodied men, we'll have a house at the end of the weekend. I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. Bring a church from trailer, we'll just get it built, because the thing is, oh no, man, I'm gonna have to write him a bill for that one. But I mean, like, you know, a tiny house, seriously, like you have an able-bodied group of people, you can smash that mess out in a weekend. I mean, it is incredible. Just a couple days, like you just start in the middle of the week or something, go right through, and you can have that done. But a tiny house usually can run, you know, between like $15,000 all the way up. Somebody's put marble countertops in there. You can have a $100,000 home. But this is a realistic expectation. If you can go down the bank tomorrow and get a loan for $15,000, when the world falls apart and the bank burns down, you got an asset sitting in the middle of a cornfield out there, wherever you got your land, that's actually usable. So I really encourage that. I'm gonna try to wrap this up here. All right. So sanitation. Now, this is something people do not spend a lot of time on, and I've went out to work for people, and then it's had to be added in. These are things that you can just put back in the closet, you know, and like, I mean, these cartridge toilets, I mean, that's a mess, okay? Like, I mean, that is a serious mess to deal with. I had a cartridge toilet in my tiny house, so we'll talk about that one off the platform. This right here, though, is really epic. Now, I can tell you what, I'll get out there and I'll work, and I'll get dirty. I like to be clean when I'm done. All right, now I don't care if you get knee-deep in mud. I worked in the sewer system, exploded on us working on it before, and I went back cleaned up. But now, when hard times come, it's the only thing when the trumpets come I don't want to give up is a good warm shower. I'll boil a pot of water and take a bath if I need to. But this right here, you can get this. It's a shower in a box. You can actually mod this stuff out so that you can run it off a battery bank, and you can mod that out for a bigger propane tank, and you still got you a shower. You can set you up a little clean booth and be done with it. All right. So just hit me up if you need any info on that. But of course, then they've got porta showers and everything. Now there's a lot of good tech out there on that. But okay, well, there we go. So the last thing, I'm going to pass this around real quick. I'm going to turn it on. This right here, they've got a lot of these out there nowadays. Different companies make them. It's like a portable power pack that can run. Some people have to have life supporting things like a CPAP machine, keep you diabetic medicine cold. These small little port packs will do stuff like that, like a little tiny mini fridge. You know, like holds like 4 Coca-Cola cans. You know what I'm talking about? Like anything, just keep you diabetic stuff. Okay. This is like. You can get these things for a couple $100. Photovoltaic panel, plug it in, DC lights to go with it. It's a little bit away, don't it? But I mean, they put lithium batteries in it now, so really good stuff. But I'm going to tell you right here, as a professional does this, if you want to check us out and go off-grid, it's offgridcontracting.com. But wind power is only a supplemental thing. I've seen times on the farm where the wind turbine, I thought it was going to come off the pole. And then it becoming a storm other times, and it's just sitting there staring at you. That's just how wind power is. But photovoltaic will always work for you. You got earth, silicone out of the earth here. You got wind, you got water, you got fire, and also this is wood gas fire. But you got the 4 elements of the earth right here, the Most High y'all gave us. You can make something out of this. That photovoltaic silicone, these things will last 25 years. So if you put your array up today and you're off-grid power, the only thing you have to worry about servicing is your battery bank in about 10 years. But this is something worth having because you can, just a small array, you can run your well pump, run you some lights, you can run your refrigerator, you can keep things going. This right here, if you have a cab and they have a lot of, now I don't like the name of the one unit, they call it a devil watt, but those thermoelectric generators, they will make you power, and you can plug that directly into your battery bank, so when you're boiling, cooking food, or heating up your house, you can be making power off the thermoelectric modules. Anybody that has water, they make small water generators now that, like, I mean, the things are only like this, and it'll make you 200-300 watts off your string. So if you can put a weir up or dam it up and pump that right through it, shoot right out and run the power to your battery bank. You think about it, if you're making 300 watts while you're sleeping, you're not using power. When you wake up 12 hours later, you've got quite a bit of power. That's equivalent to a few of these solar panels. So the other thing is, now if you want to check this out on the YouTube channel, I've got it up on 7 Trumpets Prepper. This was what was featured on Doomsday Prepper Season 2 when we were on there. I show on the YouTube channel, though, step-by-step how to build one of these wood gasifiers, and we made one for like a couple $100 and ran a generator. Now, what you need to do, though, is you need to have that go through a cooling thing. A little bit of modification is some kitty litter in that ammo can you'll see. You need to have kitty litter in there to kind of absorb that creosote and cool that down so you don't clog up the cylinders. My son, he's like a master auto mechanic at 17. He'll tell me stuff, I look at a car and I start sweating at it. I mean, I'll go work in a live electrical panel and blow you up, and I'm like, no problem. But I look at a car, I had to change, what is that thing, the belt one time? Heart palpitations, I mean, But this right here, you don't have to be a master auto mechanic, okay? You just got to plug that into the feed for the fuel line into it, and then you'll see in the video. But I mean, like I said, this is something you guys can throw together for about $300 and make something great out of it. And people, there's actually a company, I think they're out in Middle Tennessee, up where I live, that they actually manufacture a really nice welded up unit and stuff. So if you've got your Kohler or a gen rack or anything like that, you can just plug it right in, throw some wood chips or extra wood you got off your property in it, and go to town. But ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to this is, like I said, if tomorrow's breath of life wasn't in me and this was the last opportunity I had to spend time with y'all, and it's been an honor as always. I ask people always the question, are you ready? Now me, I've been Baptist since the Most High woke me up in 2009 in Babylon. I was sitting there, knew the pastor wasn't telling the truth about some stuff, and I pointed it out to him and said, well, this is how, I'm not going to say the particular church I went to, but this is how we do things here, Luke. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do things the way the Father. And so that journey continued to today. But we've got to start asking ourselves, are we ready? Because the events that I think are on the threshold, at least within the next half decade, I can't tell you the day and hour some may come. He might come right now where we're sitting. But there's a lot of events that need to take place before that great and awesome day. But they are a lot closer approaching than, like I've made the last thing I'll say this, and I'll get out of the way because I ran over by 2 minutes, is that I ask elders, I try to ask every elder I see, from every cultural background, every walk of life, military veterans, come from third world countries, just crazy stuff. Like their life is just crazy. You can write a book off of it. And I ask them a question anymore. I make sure to, before I'm going to ask the question, I say, have you ever seen a time as this in your whole life? And they're like, no, it's the craziest I've ever seen it. One even said he'd go back to Vietnam. Think about that. Okay, so these elders that are old enough to be my great-great-grandfather, and they say, I've never seen a time such as now. That should be enough to make everybody stop, hit the pause button, and be like, you know what? I might need to turn to the book of Revelation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that's been a help to you. Anything about prepping I can help you with, please email me at the number 7, trumpetsprepper@gmail.com. And the last thing I'll say, as always, but I tell everybody on the YouTube channel, hope Most High Yah Baruch can keep you, make His face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends, and Yahushua. Love you.
Hallelujah.